On October 27th, a complex, multi-domain Ukrainian operation targeted the Naro-Fominsk airbase. This facility is not merely another airfield, it is a high-value strategic asset, with infrastructure and advanced equipment costs estimated by some observers to exceed $100 million. The operation initiated a high-tempo engagement, designed to test and degrade this key component of Moscow's Western air defense and early warning grid. At 6:38 a.m., the relative quiet over the airbase was shattered. The operation commenced not with a singular, massive strike, but with a coordinated, multi-axis probe. A wave of Ukrainian FPV or first-person view strike drones, supported by loitering reconnaissance UAVs, initiated their approach from three distinct directions. Concurrently, a ground element composed of two Leopard 2 main battle tanks advanced, using wooded trails to mask their movement towards the base's southern perimeter. This surface activity was supported from the air by a Ukrainian MiG-29 patrolling at approximately 15,000 feet, which functioned as an airborne command and data relay post for ground teams. Simultaneously, Ukrainian electronic warfare units activated decoy transmitters, flooding Russian radar scopes with phantom targets. This was not a random assault, but a deliberate, high-tempo reconnaissance in force. The specific goal was to compel Russian air defense crews to activate their systems, thereby exposing the base's complete radar ring for electronic mapping and future targeting, all aimed at degrading Moscow's critical, western-facing early warning network. Moments after the opening salvo, the ground operation escalated as Ukrainian unmanned ground vehicle teams and robotic demeaning units pressed into the tree line. Their objective was to map safe approach corridors and identify obstacles like minefields. This ground movement was closely integrated with electronic warfare. A low-flying EW drone skimmed the canopy at roughly 300 feet, emitting false radar returns and creating radio silence. This specifically targeted Russian 1L series radars, like the Castor 2 E2, causing phantom blips to appear on Russian consoles and sowing mistrust in their sensor data. Further contributing to this deception, Ukrainian rocket batteries, positioned at a standoff distance of nearly 12 miles, initiated a series of mock salvos. These launches were calibrated to mimic the firing signature of a full-scale barrage from BM-30 Smerch, heavy multiple launch rocket systems. This feint was timed to force local Russian air defense crews, likely operating Buk M3 and Pantsir S1 systems, to reallocate their tracking channels and disperse their engagement sectors. This, in turn, widened their reaction windows and created vulnerabilities for the attackers to exploit. Russian air defense crews consequently found themselves chasing shadows across multiple sensor bands. Subsequently, the coordinated ground maneuver began to materialize. A Leopard 2 tank navigated through a narrow forest corridor, its thermal signature and visual profile masked by onboard smoke generators. Behind it, a small motorcycle-mounted infantry squad used the dense tree cover to close the distance, acting as forward observers to relay real-time visual feeds of Russian defensive positions. To complement this push, specialized EW teams launched decoy transmitters at key Russian data relay choke points. Overhead, loitering reconnaissance UAVs confirmed which Russian antennas had gone silent either from jamming or kinetic strikes. The MiG-29, orbiting at 15,000 feet, continued to integrate the complete ground picture and cue targets for follow-on strikes. The objective of this phase was surgical, to isolate critical fueling nodes and command and control antennas. The plan was to sever key data links, creating a temporary but significant degradation in Moscow's Western early warning chain, which could then be exploited. This phase emphasized tempo and restraint, with every asset playing a discrete role in a coordinated choreography. The second wave arrived within minutes, shifting from electronic deception to kinetic shaping. Ukrainian artillery units, identified as two S1 Gvozdika 122mm self-propelled howitzers, rapidly moved into prepared firing positions approximately 7 miles, 11 kilometers west of Naro-Fominsk. Using GPS-aided coordinates fed from forward drones, they began a sequence of precision-guided barrages that blanketed the western supply corridor. Each 122mm round was programmed to land with clinical spacing, cutting access roads and forcing Russian supply convoys to divert through narrower, pre-selected, and potentially mined lanes. Overhead, a long-range precision rocket system, likely a HIMARS or the Ukrainian-made Vilka, released a pattern of cluster rockets at long range. This barrage was not aimed at a specific target, but at creating what operators term shadow zones, temporary dead ground that effectively herded any Russian ground movement into predictable channels. The tactical intent was not mass destruction, but control. By shaping the terrain with these overlapping arcs of fire, the Ukrainians created an invisible grid that dictated where Russian armor could, or could not, safely maneuver. In response to the trap, Russian command deployed reserves. T-80 BVM tanks moved forward, and Ka-52 Alligator helicopters flew under 400 feet to intercept, firing unguided rockets at Ukrainian ground forces. The airfield became a chaotic mix of shells, defensive flares, and conflicting sensor data. Russian Su-34 fullbacks joined the fight, releasing decoys and sensor pods to find Ukrainian units. Amidst the confusing tactical picture, Buk air defense crews struggled to differentiate real targets from decoys. Meanwhile, a strategic Iskander SRBM was reportedly armed and held in reserve to deter a deeper push. The fight evolved into a clear test of tempo. Ukraine advanced, repositioned its artillery, and fired again. Russia countered, pulled back its exposed assets, and attempted to reset its defensive grid. Columns of smoke drifted over the western tree line, marking no clear victor, only the shifting rhythm of two militaries locked in a duel of precision and timing. As the kinetic artillery fire faded into a dull echo, the next phase unfolded not through explosions, but through interference. The battlefield's rhythm shifted from sound to signal. Ukrainian electronic warfare crews activated a dispersed web of jammers, decoy boxes, and bounce relays hidden across a 5-mile radius around Naro-Fominsk. Each unit pulsed on staggered cycles, injecting a complex stream of ghost returns into the Russian radar picture. Within minutes, entire Russian operator screens lit up with false signatures, aircraft that did not exist, convoys that were not there, and missiles that had never launched. Russian operators struggled to make sense of the chaos. In response, command ordered reconnaissance drones, identified as Orlan-10 type UAVs fitted with compact relay modules, to climb above 10,000 feet and attempt to relink isolated radar posts, bypassing the low-altitude jamming. But every time a node came back online, the signal was immediately hit again by Ukraine's bouncing waveforms, creating a frustrating cycle of connection and collapse. The Russian forces then committed a high-value asset. A Krzuka series electronic countermeasure system joined the fight, pushing a broad-spectrum jam meant to blind the intruding drones. Yet every activation came with immense risk. Each time the powerful Krzuka powered up, its own potent electromagnetic signature revealed its coordinate, giving Ukrainian counter-EW teams seconds to target it with precision artillery fire. The battle became a duel of timing. Who could power their sensors at the exact moment to see, shoot, and move before being blinded or destroyed? The Ukrainian MiG-29, still at medium altitude, acted as a signal repeater, relaying encrypted bursts from the Ukrainian command net, while low-altitude UAVs mimicked civilian frequencies to disguise their transmissions. Russian Buk and Pantsir crews tried to hold a defensive rhythm, but their tracking loops grew slower with each disruption. The electromagnetic landscape was now alive, an invisible ocean of pulse, noise, and deceit. Ukrainian special operations units then surged forward to capitalize on the fractured radar network. Riding lightweight motorcycles and ATVs, night-capable operations detachment pushed through the smoke-drenched forest roads west of Naro-Fominsk. They were guided not by lights, but by short bursts of encrypted coordinates relayed through handheld jammers. Behind them, compact, treaded robotic scouts, or UGVs, detected residual radio signals and mines left from earlier defenses. Each element moved in silence, its navigation handled by thermal overlays fed from drones still looping at 12,000 feet. Their task was surgical, to sever the enemy's circulatory system without drawing a mass conventional response. Teams intercepted diesel convoys bound for the airbase, cutting hoses and planting small electromagnetic traps on parked fuel trucks to disable their ignition systems. Others slipped into temporary supply nodes, capturing relay towers and planting portable signal scramblers disguised as storage crates. Simultaneously, a pair of Ukrainian long-range loitering munitions, described as Neptune class, simulated long-range attacks from the southwest. Their radar signatures were designed to echo across the Russian grid. The ruse was effective. Air defense batteries near Moscow's western beltway were forced to reassign interceptors to this new perceived threat, consequently thinning the defensive protection around Naro-Fominsk. The Russian command responded swiftly. T-80 BVM tanks regrouped near a southern highway junction, forming a moving wall to seal gaps, while Ka-52 helicopters patrolled the treetops, unleashing flares and rockets into suspected infiltration zones. Yet every Russian rotation exposed new blind spots. The Ukrainian raiders used the shifting smoke and electronic clutter as camouflage, slipping between engagements, recording Russian radar frequencies, and exfiltrating before direct contact. Within 2 hours, 3 separate refueling sectors and 1 critical command repeater had gone dark. The clash that followed broke the fragile rhythm. The electronic haze still lingered when 2 Russian Su-34 fullback strike fighters swept in from the southeast, releasing bursts of radar decoys and chaff clouds before diving into their attack run. Their goal was to scatter the Ukrainian UAV formations and disrupt the MiG-29 maintaining the air picture. Ukrainian pilots countered fast. One MiG-29 climbed to 18,000 feet, locking onto the Su-34S, while the second banked west to cover the retreating drones. Down below, the ground erupted again. Ka-52 attack helicopters roared in low, barely 200 feet above the treetops, hunting the Leopard tanks and motorcycle infantry. The helicopters fired volleys of rockets, their defensive flares streaking through the dusk. Ukrainian manpads, man-portable air defense system teams, already in position, fired back from concealed clearings. Russian Kornet anti-tank guided missile and ATGM teams opened crossfire corridors. The Leopards answered with short, precise bursts from their 120mm cannons, while supporting infantry used smoke grenades. Underpinning this, small demining robots worked silently, scanning soil temperatures to detect buried mines, transmitting real-time data that allowed Ukrainian units to reroute on the fly. Command nodes on both sides raced against time, processing telemetry in under 4 minutes to update targeting loops. It was a duel fought for synchronization. As the kinetic engagement subsided, the tempo slowed, but the pressure never eased. Ukraine shifted focus from direct strikes to precision paralysis. Mobile EW trucks moved quietly, parking near abandoned structures to launch pinpoint jamming bursts, severing radio relays linking field headquarters to control posts closer to the capital. For several tense minutes at a time, Russian battalion channels went silent, their situational maps freezing mid-update. This forced Russian commanders to spend critical time and energy reshaping their communications web. As the operation wound down, coordination was established for humanitarian access. Neutral liaison teams and medical crews advanced under truce lights to retrieve stranded vehicle crews from both sides who had lost mobility. Through the same frequencies once used for jamming, Ukraine transmitted a short message in plain language, calling for restraint and acknowledging non-combatants. By dusk, the operation had achieved its primary purpose. The command links at Naro-Fominsk remained offline long enough to paralyze supply routes, forcing Russia to withdraw its T-80 BVM tanks, Buk launchers, and Ka-52 helicopters from the immediate sector for reorganization. Strategically, the loss was not about broken cables, but broken rhythm. Moscow's defense network in this sector would now have to be rebuilt under pressure, at greater cost, and with fewer secure corridors.